Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, and welcome to Everything Southwick. My name is Russ Fox. I'm the chairman of the Southwick Board of Selectmen, and my guest here today is Chief Robert Landis of Southwick Police Department. We have big shoes to fill. Selectman Moglen did this last month. He did an excellent job. So I had to do one better. He brought a deputy fire chief. I brought a chief of police. So it's a little competition. So we're going to try to do a better show than Mr. Moglen.
Well, thanks for having me, Russ. We'll do our best.
Okay. You and I had the pleasure of attending a meeting of CRC last night, Citizens Restoring Congamon. It is summertime. The big issues for the police, or one of the big issues for the police department, are the lakes and patrolling lakes, and you have really taken it to a new level So I thought you did such a good presentation last night. We would discuss that to get that message out to other people.
Sure. So one of the things that really why we've expanded our lake patrols, this is back even before I became chief as a lieutenant, with since retired Chief Bishop. COVID put an amazing strain on our lake population. Certainly not just Southwick; it's countrywide. People were staying home, purchasing recreational equipment, and heading to the waters in their local communities. So we started seeing, again, a lot of traffic going through our boat ramps, and just an extraordinary amount of people coming out to visit, which is something we've never really experienced to that extent. So we had to increase our boat patrols, our lake patrols. Last summer, we probably had just over 70 patrol shifts, which consists of 4-hour blocks there throughout the week and weekends, just to be present, educate people on boater safety, and just to keep the lake environment safe. One of the things we were able to do is the Hampden County Sheriff's Department created a Marine unit as well. So our boat operators spent a lot of amount of time with them, training, getting them familiar with our lake, and they were able to help fill a void when we had staffing shortages to come out to the lake to patrol. And again, the main mission out there for us is just to educate people and keep them safe. We're not out there to harass them. Certainly, if somebody is, if there's a motorboat violation that's exceptional, then the citations are issued. But more often than not, it's safety checks and just talking with the people and educating them on the uniqueness of Southwick and how our pond operates with a counterclockwise rotation. Because we have so many visitors and we have the challenges of the canals and how you navigate through them, very narrow passages, and which can create some issues. So that was our main goal. We've started out the season doing the same thing, and we're going to continue to do that throughout the year. Staffing, like everywhere else, is always a problem for us. So we kind of try to think out of the box on how we flex shifts and do certain things to make sure we have our, adequate road coverage, but certainly pay attention to the lake as much as possible. The feedback has been very, very good. I don't know that we can ever be out there enough.
Well, that did come up several times last night. People want somebody out there 24/7. They always spot that speeder or somebody misbehaving out on the lakes and can't understand why the police aren't out there and catching that individual. I guess it's similar to the people that call about their roads, speeding on their roads. Can't understand why we can't have a speed trap there and have people there all the time,
No, that's true. And one of the things many people have concerns of, and justifiably so, is the boating population. I think our issue's more, it's time specific. Your weekends, your heavy traffic, generally during the week, you don't have the numbers out there that you normally see on a Saturday afternoon on a nice day. You're more dealing with individual behavior. And it's that one boat, certainly, that came up last night, whether it be noise or a particular jet ski or boat operating in a manner. And, I encourage the people, even if they don't see a boat out there, to call our business line and report it, because many of these people either can be identified at the dock from which they came from, or at a boat ramp. And if the officer has the ability to do so, they'll have a conversation with them. And again, it's just about deterring behavior.
Correct. We really haven't had that many serious incidents in the past few years. Several years ago, we did have 3 drownings in one year, which was extremely rare, very unfortunate. But in general, we do have a dive team. We do have a police boat. Matter of fact, the voters were kind enough to vote to give you a new, or to order a new police boat. So, how many people do we have, like, on our dive team and things like that?
So right now we have 5 divers, and then we have several officers that are just boat operators. So they will do our lake enforcement and then support our dive functions. Whenever we have a recovery. Yes, the boat, which we are extremely grateful for. Unfortunately, we won't see till next boating season because of the backlog of all the recreational equipment. But we're in the process now. We're working with the company to place that order. We are extremely fortunate. Over the winter, Sergeant Westcott had applied for a Homeland Security grant, which we were just awarded. We received the equipment. The officers were actually trained last week for a underwater piece of sonar equipment. It was just under $70,000 at no cost to the taxpayer, and gives us the ability to not only use the sonar, such as to check the topography of underwater when we're looking for something, especially when you can't see, but it also has camera views from front and back. It has a mechanical arm that can help assist with whatever it is the task might be. And where it comes in so efficient because of when you get into Congamon, when you get into it's pretty much anything over 8 feet, you can't see. And to be able to put something down there to give you that vision that you can't see with the human eye, it allows us to hopefully find our target before we actually deploy a diver. So it makes for a much safer incident for us. So we have some guys that aren't divers that are, especially our younger guys who are much more, it's like playing a video game, and they've seemed to take into it very well. So we're, can be able to use that in a lot of different areas, such as even the town beach. Every year what we'll do is we'll go out and we'll swim the town beach to make sure we'll pull out any obstructions, any glass, anything that debris that may have gotten there over the season, just to make it a safer environment for the people that come to visit. We'll do the same thing with this rover.
Oh, excellent. Now, did you use this technology? Didn't you pull out a car that had been there for quite a few years?
Actually, it was discovered with similar technology from a bass boat. It was the sonar equipment that the fishermen use for detecting their fish, which also will pick up obstructions and debris and other things in the water. And this one individual came across this vehicle. And generally, we won't go digging out any piece of debris that we find because it can disturb the environment. We actually have some open cases from years and years ago involving vehicles that were, the information we had were dumped in the lake. And if those pieces of evidence could yield some closure to some people, it's worth taking that opportunity to retrieve that. So in that case, we did. There's other times where you would generally just leave the debris. So.
Right. And from stories I've heard years ago, when people used to race on the ice during the winter, and normally it was in cars that weren't worth very much. A lot of times those cars were just abandoned, and when it melted, they went to the bottom.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And luckily, we don't have that going on anymore.
No.
That's not permissible.
Correct.
I guess I should have mentioned at the beginning that you're not only the chief of police, but you are the harbor master for the town of Southwick. And that's why you do spend a lot of time down at the lake. And your background, weren't you in the Navy, sir?
Well, I was, but I fixed aircraft that landed on the ships. So I don't have a lot of background with regards to the ship itself. But I've been on the dive team for almost 28 years since pretty much Sergeant Cross, for those that might remember him, kind of started the program. So he and I did a lot in the beginning, just ourselves with minimal equipment, and it's just evolved to where we are today, where we're extremely efficient, and we're in the process of working with multiple agencies in creating a regional dive team, because that's going to allow us to bring in other resources, personnel, equipment, and be able to receive federal monies, as a regional unit. So that'll be a great asset, and that's ongoing.
Okay. Now, are you also working on a new facility by the boat ramp where you'd be able to have the police boat there for quicker access to the lakes?
It's more of a long term, but Mr. Grenels from Lake Management's been instrumental in helping us appropriate a piece of property that on the state boat ramp that the state is willing to allow us to utilize for a boathouse. So we've configured a draft where this will allow us to put our new boat, because of the equipment that's in it. It's kind of difficult for something like that just to leave out unprotected. So this will be able to, currently the boat we use now, we have to trailer it from the police department to the lake and launch it, which takes some time. Here will give us 24/7 access, immediate use of the boat for any of our operators to go to the boat ramp, and it'll just be a much more efficient operation of how we deploy.
Right. In a case of a rescue, time is of the essence.
Right.
So we could be talking about saving someone's life or getting them to medical attention a lot quicker.
Right,
So,
right. Our dive team, more or less, is a recovery type unit. The fire department is generally certainly dispatched. They have the personnel on hand immediately for a rescue.
Okay.
But this would allow our boat operators immediate access to the boat to be part of the rescue process.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good clarification. I don't want to offend Chief Anderson of our
No.
fire department and our great staff there.
No, we work very well with them. They, with their Marine unit as well, are, generally speaking, initially, it is a fire scene on a rescue call.
Okay.
And then after the fact, once you determine that we have to kind of take a step back and our risk assessments determine that now we're going to have to go in it, we're more in a recovery mode,
Okay.
things change. But we help each other throughout both cycles, regardless.
And we're pretty fortunate that we have a marine operator that helps with the department and is very supportive of the department. Mr. Saunders Marina.
Oh, very much so. Yep. They are very accommodating to us with anything we need, whether it be just the space, the area, the additional boats that he might have access to help us, to certainly his ramp space, and I know the fire department keeps their boat down there docked all the time, so anything we've ever needed, he's been there to help to make sure that our equipment's up and running. So.
Okay. And just a footnote, that is the oldest running business in the town of Southwick, I think, from the 1800s. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The family has kept it going generation after generation.
Yeah, certainly
And,
a lot of history there.
A lot of history. In general, the summer in the lakes, any words of wisdom or any thoughts of what you would tell people coming to Southwick?
Well, just, for those that aren't familiar, look at the traffic pattern. You can tell the people that know the lake and how they navigate through the canals and the directions in which they do. And, like on the road, be courteous to the people around you. And, certainly we want everybody out there just to have a good time. And, if you are on a jet ski, or if you are tubing, or if you have to be mindful of the space you're in, and you just have to follow the navigational rules as if, again, on the road, giving right away. And we encourage you to come out and enjoy our community and our lakes, and be safe. And if you happen to tie up to a particular area, North Pond, for example, like some do, and they visit the shoreline, that whatever you take, out to the shore, you bring back to your boat with you, and don't leave anything behind. And we encourage people to, if there are issues out there, to call us, so we can address any problems that are there.
Okay. And I know it's always been a bone of contention that our environmental police really don't have the staff to come out there as often as they used to. But we're fortunate, again, with the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Kochi, staff to assist our people. And then you did mention North Pond, and the reason why that is being utilized now is because of several years ago we widened the entranceway, so boats are easier to get into that, even larger pontoon boats. So that particular section of Congamon has become more active, and that is also the deepest part of Congamon, if I'm correct. But Congamon Lakes has been an extremely important part of Southwick since the beginning. I mean, our ice houses, turn of the century, it was a tourist destination. That's where the train stopped. People from New York and Boston and all over would flock to the town of Southwick and Congamon Lakes. Johnny Weissmiller and some of the other famous people did swimming demonstrations there. If those people that don't know who that was one of the original Tarzans. So Southwick was a destination, and I think it still is a destination. And with the town of Southwick and the Commonwealth, it is a great pond. Sure. It is controlled by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but the town of Southwick has spent literally millions of dollars to protect it, and we certainly want people that come. We want people to come to town, and certainly go to our other businesses. We have beautiful restaurants in town, gas, of course, Mrs. Murphy's Donuts. So come out and use the lakes, but try to respect them.
Absolutely, and you bring up a good point as far as the uniqueness of our lakes. Where our location with Connecticut is, as you know, the state line runs pretty much up through the middle of the lakes. But the actual jurisdiction for enforcement goes to the high water mark on the Connecticut side. So all enforcement's done by Massachusetts, and fishing, licensing, and all that comes under Massachusetts. So people have asked, especially on the Connecticut side, why don't we see Suffield police officers, for example, out in the boats? And they just don't have the jurisdiction to enforce the powers without some special, agreement between us where we would maybe grant them or bring them in as special police, which logistically would be really difficult to do with the police reform and everything that goes with that.
Right.
So, yeah, it is. And as far as the ice houses and the history you speak of, there's one, being a diver, I'm familiar with a lot of the obstructions that are still there from our ice houses, most of which have buoys on them to keep people away, but there's still, a lot of artifacts that we occasionally will come up across. Mike Westcott, I think it was last season, we have a picture of it, brought up a saw blade. It's probably 4 feet in diameter, and I believe he was going to be donated to the Historical Commission. But it was from the ice houses for sawing the blocks.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It is
Stuff
amazing.
that's still there.
It's a big part of the history of the town of Southwick. So I also neglected to mention that bass fishing. We have a lot of tournaments on Congamon Lakes, and we're still listed as one of the top 3 or top 5 in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for bass fishing. So we do have a lot of fishermen that still come out. There's a lot of ice fishing in the winter times. And the water quality, since we did the alum treatment last year, even at the meeting last night, people were talking about the clarity of the water. And I think they also mentioned the fact that we're still working to see if we can't do some dredging, at least along the shorelines, to get rid of some of the muck that adds nutrients to the lakes. It's a natural process for lakes to die, but if you continue to maintain them and work with them, you can keep them going.
Right.
Other countries have done it. Other communities have done it. It's just a very costly thing to achieve. So,
Sure.
But we'll continue to work on that.
You guys ready for a break?
If you'd like us to take a break,
Absolutely.
Peter,
Get a stretch. Grab something, water or something, because you guys have been talking for half an hour. So.
All right.
Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Okay. Thanks, Peter.
Mississippi, she's calling my name. Catfish are jumping, that paddle wheel bumping. Black water keep rolling on past just the same. Oh, black water keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Oh, black water keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Oh, black water keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Yeah, keep on shining your light. Gonna make everything great. Mama gonna make everything alright. And I ain't got no worries, 'cause I ain't in no hurry. Well, if it rains, I don't care. Don't make no difference to me. Just take that streetcar, let's go in uptown. Yeah, I like to hear some funky Dixieland and dance a honky tonk. And I'll be buying everybody drinks all around. Oh, black water, keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Oh, black water, keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Oh, black water, keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Keep on shining your light. Gonna make everything gonna make everything alright. And I ain't got no worries, 'cause I ain't in no hurry at all. With your daddy all night long. I'd like to hear some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama, come and take me by the hand. By the hand, take me by the hand. Pretty mama, come and dance with your daddy all night long. I'd like to hear some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama, come and take me by the hand. By the hand, take me by the hand. Pretty mama, come and dance with your daddy all night long. I'd like to hear some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama, come and take me by the hand. Come on, baby. Take me by the hand. Pretty mama, come and dance with your daddy all night long. forget Dixieland, pretty mama, gonna take me by the hand. By the hand, by the hand, pretty mama, gonna take me. I like to hear some funky Dixieland.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Everything Southwick. We just talked about the lakes for about a half an hour, and now I think it's time to go on to probably one of the biggest challenges facing not just Southwick's police department, but every department in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that's police reform. So if you want to just kind of tell people what police reform is and some of the challenges that we're facing, particularly in smaller communities like Southwick.
Sure. So the police reform bill, certainly a lot of this came from the George Floyd death. And I don't think there's a police officer out there that would disagree that that was a terrible, tragic incident and shouldn't have happened. But because of it, we've had to reevaluate how we certify, how we train our officers. It seems like Massachusetts is really on the forefront of that and how we become certified. So predominantly, we've had the luxury here in Southwick. We've had a great training program, whereas we were able to take part-time officers. We give them a level of training where they're proficient, and they actually worked side by side, full-time guys that have been through the full-time academy, helping supplement our shifts, working our lake patrols, and various other events. With the reform bill, the order is that all officers are at the exact same level of training, same. So they've given us a 3-year period to do that, and they've broken down from what they figure to be about 3,000 officers across the state that need this level of training. The state has broke it down into 3 groups by alphabet. So our first group just will be finished and required to be maintained, be certified by June 30th of this year. So that'll be A through H. We happen to have 3 officers that are in what they call the Bridge Academy. It consists of 120 hours of in-person learning, which is your defensive driving, de-escalation tactics, and your CPR, first aid. All that needs to be accomplished. And then there's your firearms. And then there's 80 hours of online training that the Academy provides as well. So the first group, unfortunately, had about 6 months to prepare and get this done, because by the time it rolled out, it was already into January. Our officers are able to do that, and we expect that they'll all complete their bridge by the requirement of July 30th. And so they will be considered the equivalent of as a full-time officer. They can be employed if a chief were to sign off as being fit. They would be, without having to go through a full-time academy now, they are considered the equivalent. And the next group will start July 1. They'll have a year to accomplish, then the third. The goal is for the state to get to everybody to be certified within this 3-year period. There will be some time after that for some of these officers to reach the minimum requirement of a 2,400 hours of patrol time, actually doing police work to complete the certification. But from there on out, it'll be, if you want to become a police officer in the state of Mass, you will go to a full-time academy. Whether the state provides that in blocks, which allows someone to go evenings, weekends, is to be seen. But what that challenge has brought to us is also we're losing personnel as well. because it is a big commitment. Many of our part-time people have other jobs, and they either came into this career late in life, and being a full-time law enforcement officer wasn't maybe an option for them. So to be able to now go down this road of certification is just not viable for them, so we're losing them. And that's a hurdle all departments are dealing with that use part-time staff. And in this area, a lot of departments are dependent on that source. I'm not sure what kind of pool this is going to create for us for rehiring for those who do become certified, because I think there's a big void in law enforcement already because of police reform and the demands. There's been a lot of retirements across the state. So I think any available body that comes out of a bridge academy is probably going to be pulled in to fill that. So it doesn't give us a big pool to choose from.
And this is going to cause a serious financial burden to communities.
It does, because although the academy itself, the classes are at no cost, you send an officer to defensive driving, for example, he has to be paid by the community. You send him with a vehicle from your community. Some of your smaller Hilltown departments may only have one or two cars, and so that's an expense that we have to have. So one of the things that's happening as well is, because we're also losing bodies for all our detail work that's out there. And these construction crews need to work. They need their to move on with their projects. So at least in the town of Southwick, what we're doing is we have some of our officers that aren't able to be certified, but because they do have background, we are allowing them to become what we call traffic control officers. And they don't have arrest powers. They don't have firearms. They will maintain their CPR and first responder training. So if there was a medical emergency, at the scene, they can hopefully, be able to intervene. And it'll allow them to keep working, and it allows us to go to a source for these details that we try to fill every day. And there probably isn't a day that goes by that we don't have, say, an officer or two from Westfield working details, because we just don't have the available people. So we have to reach out to other communities to help, and that's quite common as well for other places to do the same thing.
But that's going to be a ripple effect as other departments lose people. So it's going to get, the demand is going to be higher.
Correct.
It's going to slow down certain projects. You start to get nervous. What if we're trying to restore electrical power? So it does impact, looking at it as a non-police officer. I look at what the legislature did. I think that they moved a little too fast from the meetings I've attended. I don't think they had enough input from people in law enforcement. I know what the intent was, and I think the intent was good, but I really think that they should have taken a step backward and looked at all the repercussions. And it's basically another unfunded mandate by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is unfortunate.
I agree, and I think, and most chiefs do. And I mean, personally, I think it's always good to reevaluate what we're doing. We can always do it. I think we can always do it better. So this is an opportunity to do just that. But you're right. I mean, it happened very quick. There is a segment of the legislation that didn't want to listen to law enforcement. The police chiefs, continue to try to tell them that some of the hurdles that they would be facing if they do this, such as manpower shortages and stuff, much of which was never even addressed during the legislation. It was kind of like new information to them, but it was too late. And when we asked for some flexibility in this bridge program with regarding certification, maybe a longer process, the dates weren't flexible.
Yeah.
But those are the cards we're dealt with. here from where I sit, and the legislating is done, so we have to work with what we're given.
Right.
So,
What do you think is going to happen to smaller communities? Are they just going to be dependent on the state police, which is already short themselves?
correct. What you're already seeing is some of these smaller communities is regionalizing themselves. So you get the two small communities that come together and form one police department. So that's starting to happen. That was something generally you wouldn't see before because the state police would control those areas, and but now you have no recourse. There's talk, and it's not there yet. But at some point you might see the sheriffs, some things changing where you start seeing sheriffs patrolling. They do some forest park work. Springfield, they've done for years. They do some school stuff in the past. There might be a supplement that way, but we're still a long way from having the manpower for any of our whether it be sheriff, state police, or anybody to fill those voids. So I don't know if there's any easy answer. I know the state police and the city of Greenfield is the most recent that you're hearing about cuts, but the state police were pulling a lot of people out of their specialty units so that they could, fill the patrol, the barracks, and they're still very short-staffed in those specialty units because they're doing that. So they actually have a class going on right now, and my understanding it was one of the largest class that they've ever put through. So it's going to take a while before we start seeing those personnel make a difference in the manpower.
Right. As a police officer, why do you think that there's fewer people going into your field? I mean, we have Westfield State here, which has a criminal justice program, Holyoke Community. I've talked to people up there where they say they're, decline of students. Why do you think this is?
I don't like to get into politics, but I think politics have a lot to play with how we're being portrayed, whether it be through the media and some of our politicians on when a cop or officer, like the Chauvin case, which is deservingly so, that was terrible. And it should get the attention it got, for those that aren't doing it right. But the majority of police officers, from my perspective and many of my colleagues, we are doing it right. Southwick is extremely supportive of our department, and so we have that. I don't want to say luxury, but it is that all the feedback that I get from the community is that they're very happy with the services they get. There's a very, very small proponent out there that is getting the negative attention that's overshadowing everything that we're doing, and that's what you hear, that's what you see, and I think that hasn't been too appetizing to those people that want to become police officers. So, I'm hoping that it will come the other way, like a lot of things do, and it's going to take some time. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed for that, and there are definitely ways that we can be doing some things better, or we have to change with the times, I guess, and the demands of certain individuals, but that would probably be how I would sum it up with regards to recruiting and the lack of interest of people coming into our profession.
All right. Well, what are some of the programs that we're doing in Southwick? I know you've been pretty proactive, and we were just talking a few minutes ago about the RAD program starting up again.
Right. So obviously for everybody, COVID kind of put everything at a halt, and even coming out of it slowly, people are reluctant to get together in groups, and so our RAD program, which is a self-defense course for women, We started that up. Last night was our first class. It's pretty much been our first formal community type policing since COVID. So we have a small class that started, but we're happy to get that going. And hopefully from this, the word will spread because we have more plans for others. Our hope is in the fall or winter is we'll begin our community policing program again, where we'll bring in interested residents of the community. We've also entertained people from outside the community in the past when we've had room, where they can come in. It's a weekly class. Give them the opportunity to kind of see step by step how, what we do. And the feedback in the past has always been great because in general, if you've never dealt with a police officer, which many surprisingly don't. I mean, you see them in passing, you say hello, but your interaction is generally very minimal. So and the complexities of what we actually do with regards to our training. We like to bring them in and give them hands-on of some of the things that we actually do. And I think it's important for our messaging that the community sees us from our perspective and how we do things. And when we do scenario-based training, that in fact you have seconds to make a decision based on the best information you have at that moment, whereas when I talk about the media and stuff and our Monday morning quarterbacks that have the luxury of now dissecting that everything that was done with that little bit of information. So it just sheds a whole new level of light on, our relationships.
Yeah. No, I finally took that course with former Sergeant Sanders when he ran the program. And I had put it off for several years because I said, I've been working with police departments and different chiefs for years. I don't need to take this, and finally he convinced me, well, you should take it. I learned more than I ever thought I'd learn, and it was just a great program. I'm glad you're bringing it back. I ask people in our community, think about it. It is a commitment. It's a weekly, and it runs for several weeks, but it opens your eyes.
Right.
And I think we're very fortunate. I think we have a great police department, a great staff. I'm very sorry we're going to be losing a lot of our reserve officers because of police reform. But over the years, we've just had so many people step up, and really protect the community of the town of Southwick. So it's a great program. And just an aside on the RAD, when we first started that, my wife took it. And people say, you're never going to use it. She ended up using it one morning in Boston when she was down at one of the hospitals with one of our Southwick residents at about 5 o'clock in the morning. She stepped outside of the hospital, and she ended up using that RAD training. And luckily, there were other construction workers just getting there that came to her defense. So it does work. So I would encourage women, once we get this program up and running, is take it. And I think you've already mentioned to me, or somebody did, that there's a possibility we would be doing this maybe for college women, younger women.
What I was hoping, we actually, again, I keep going back to COVID and how it put everything at a halt, but our goal was to, with some of the high school kids, the older, like junior, seniors, as they are getting ready to go off to college, is with the schools, is to implement a program, maybe a little amended to what we do with our, with the adult or older female population, something more fitting to them. So we had started working on that, and we're going to try to get that up and running again, along with our Citizens Police Academy. We would actually like to do something similar too with the school population. Bring that in, fine-tune it, to meet their criteria, and we weren't sure if it was something we can fit in during the school day for the group that choose to be part of it, or something that would be after school. But these were all things that had been in the works and were on the back burner, and we're now starting to try to put together again.
Excellent, excellent. I see we're getting, we're only down to a few minutes, so we have a big event coming up, the Motocross National, July 9th, that requires a lot of police presence and fire presence and ambulance, things like that. I thought we'd take a few minutes just to talk about that and the impact on that and any recommendations that you might have for people, because we have larger rigs coming in even before the races, and I guess it's going to be televised again nationally this year. So your thoughts?
So yes, July 9th is Saturday, and we probably expect anywhere from 10 to 15,000 people is generally where we're at. It's a fantastic day if this is the type of sport you enjoy. It's certainly a family event. If you plan on coming, come early, because there is some logistics with getting in through traffic. It's something we've done for many, many years. We've got it down very well. We have our community partners with Westfield and Granville and Tolland that come and help with police services. The fire department have certainly their personnel, and our civil defense people are out there. There's more than enough police officers out there to make sure that everything is going the way it needs to go. If this is something you don't enjoy, then I would suggest that you keep to the outskirts of our Powder Mill Road area, Feeding Hills Road, because especially in the morning and late afternoon when the traffic's coming in and then leaving. Certainly we welcome. There's going to be people from all over New England attend this, and the racers themselves are from all over some are from all over the world. They're NASCAR. It's motocross is NASCAR. It's a super,
Right.
It's great. Something I've always personally enjoyed, with some background in motocross as well. So it's quite the event that occurs in our community. It's a nationally renowned track right here in Southwick.
Right. And actually, once the people get in, it isn't that bad.
Right.
Even in that area, it is not bad. I have some experience because I do volunteer to park cars at the Southwick Recreation Center, and that's been eye-opening because I've met people from Australia that have come to the race, Japan. It's like you said, it's a draw, not just locally. This is people travel for this, and it does have an economic spin-off for the town of Southwick between gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants, grocery stores, because these people do start coming in probably a week or two ahead, and they need things.
Sure.
So it does help put Southwick on the map as a destination. So
No, and I mean even the promoters, AMA, and this promoter Lucas Oil, but locally more close to home, Rick Johnson, who runs the track. They're extremely mindful of the community and the impact, and that it is a positive impact, and they know there's some inconveniences that come with it, but they do everything in their power to mitigate that, and certainly from a public safety standpoint, we appreciate that.
Yeah. And matter of fact, I talked to Rick Johnson this past week, and he said they were going to be bringing in different things to entertain the crowd in between races. One of them was they're hoping a laser shooting demonstration, which is a mobile operation, and he said that the possibility of your men using it for training with actual live ammunition after the event is over. So
Right. I had a brief conversation, and I think their emphasis with this, again, the laser portion is demonstrating and promoting safety.
Right.
Safety, and so, we're certainly always for that.
And Russ, just to let you know, the fans also like that track a lot. The competitors really like that track a lot as well, because it's the way it's laid out, and because of the soil consistency for the bikes. It's one of the unique tracks on their circuit.
Right. It's known as the Wick, and the sand,
pit.
the sand pit.
Yeah, the sand. Yeah.
It's amazing. Kudos to Rick Johnson. He's taken it to another level. We've always had great people that started it, and other people have kept it going, but Rick has really turned it into something different. And to have it televised nationally, again, it can only bring more people to our beautiful town of Southwick. It is a beautiful town. I grew up in Southwick. Not all change is bad.
Right.
Okay? Would I like it back where it was only a few thousand people and all farms? Yeah, it would be nice. It was great growing up as a kid. But I've met some great people that have moved to the town of Southwick who have committed themselves to the town of Southwick and made Southwick even better. So there's a reason why people want to move to Southwick. I know that sometimes you can see some negative press going on, but that's minor. That's minor. We have some flare-ups just like any community, but it's still a great community to visit, a great community to live in, a great community to raise your children in. So
I certainly would have to agree with that.
But well, we're really getting low on time. So, Chief, any final thoughts of people in the summer, people in general when it comes to law enforcement?
No, I continue to try to encourage people, and one thing I find so respectful of our community is they don't want to be a bother. So they may not call when, it would have been probably better that they did. If you see something, please call. We're out there, we're available, and yes, we have our moments when we're extremely busy, but there's certainly no reason we can't pay attention to whatever it is that you need as well. I'd rather come out and find that maybe your concern turned out to be nothing than to all of a sudden it actually was something genuine, and it would have, could have been addressed, had we known. So certainly it's not a bother to us. Certainly my phone line's always open, my door is always open. If there's anybody that has a concern or would like to speak to me directly, I'm always free.
Right. So. And the same could be said for the select board. We can always be reached. There's 3 members. We have a new member, Jason Perrone. We have Doug Moglen, who I think we did a much better show than he did.
Oh,
and I'm going to have to tell him that because we were just better.
Yeah.
The bottom line. Peter, I don't know if we have a minute to talk about the fact that our dispatch system is going to be connected with the city of Westfield, the regional approach. That's probably going to be happening.
We're actually going to hopefully start with some transitioning next month. It'll be more of a test phase, and that's going to take some time. The biggest holdup certainly will be the installation of infrastructure over the next several months, but hopefully by next spring we'll be fully transitioned over is kind of what we're looking at right now, barring anything unforeseen. I gotta give credit to our current staff of dispatchers who are really helping with this transition to make sure that what they started and built gets handed over properly, and City of Westfield's been great as well with regards to making sure that this venture is truly a collaboration of neighbors.
Right.
And also the technology's changed so much in the last 10 years since we started talking about this that it's now a lot more feasible than it was before.
Oh, absolutely. And that is, one of the things that we were faced with when we made this decision is because of technologies, because of the upgrades that we needed, because of the staffing demands that a one-seat dispatch has. And
Yeah.
it's becoming, harder and harder to do. So, there's never a good time to make a decision that affects your personnel. But if you could pick one, this was it.
Right. And I think there is going to be a learning curve, and there is concern, you talk to different people, response time, things like that. But I think you and Peter have hit on it. The technology has changed so much that that all that information can be pulled up on the screen, to give the officer, that added information so he can get to that
Right.
location.
The caller won't see a difference.
Right.
When the caller picks up that phone, it's just being answered a little further down the road here in Westfield. But the way the communications are addressed, there will be no difference.
And I know with my business and your business, I'd ask people, get your house numbers on your house or out if you're set back from the road, get it out by the road. In Southwick, we have that program that the senior center is running for older folks, and now it's opened up to everybody with the green reflective house number signs that can go there. It's extremely helpful.
Sure.
I remember one time in my ride-along on the community policing program, we couldn't find the house.
No, you're correct.
And it was a medical emergency, and it was tough. It was nighttime, and we had difficulty because they didn't have the house number on it.
Right.
So I'd encourage people, take advantage of the program at the senior center, or just, if you don't want to do that, just get your house numbers out there, big, bold numbers, so that people can respond, and anybody that's making any deliveries can find you easier,
Right.
too.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, on that quickly, if we have any listeners that are owning businesses and have lines on their phones, we're working on a project because it is a requirement with state 911 is that all these phone lines are specifically listed. So when a dispatcher picks up the phone, not only it gives the address, but the location within that business of where that is, so we can respond to the right location within the business.
Yep.
So it's all very important.
And I found that out personally by absentmindedly looking at an order, and the first three letters it said to call were 911. And when the police picked up, I said, geez, sorry, and this was in Southwick, I'm sorry, I read the numbers wrong. And okay, and then they called back to verify, and I said, okay, yeah. But a police officer still responded
Yes.
to make sure there was nothing going on at our business. And I appreciate that, that extra security. So,
All right, and that's it. You're wrapped up.
thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.